Welcome back, and a very interesting segment this afternoon, our community builder segment. We're going to be recognizing our community builder, Ricky Nair, and talk to him about the importance of having a positive impact on your community and giving to others in quest to make a difference. Let me tell you a little bit about him. He was born in Durban and grew up in a very political family with values of service to humanity and service to, of course, the Almighty. Became an orphan from the tender age of 14, matriculated and went to the University of Durban, Westville. He was expelled from the university due to his political and underground activities. He left Durban in 1979 and spent 2 years in Africa. Settled in Johannesburg in 1981 and has lived in the Fordsburg, Greater Mayfair area ever since. His community involvement started firstly with sport development, leading to serving on a Parents Teachers Association, later SGBs, formation of the first non-racial civic association in the area, and the Crosmay Civic Association. Served on different structures in the community, from the Wits Football Association under Uncle Musa Lehe to SGBs, joining the Joist Joint Educational Forum, civics, ratepayers, burial committee, neighborhood watchers to community policing forum. There's definitely a lot going on there. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Thank you so much for joining me this afternoon on Inspired Afternoons with myself, Nafisa Dango.
Walaikum salam and jazakallah for having me, and let me take this opportunity to wish all our listeners Ramadan Kareem.
Likewise, from Salam Media team and myself, would also like to wish you a blessed one. We're so glad that you've taken the time out to actually inspire us in many directions this afternoon. And for all of you out there that don't know, and I call him the infamous Uncle Ricky Nair, there's a lot going on there, and this is what we wanted to unpack this afternoon. Tell us a little bit about yourself. I read a little bit about your story and how you started off, a very interesting one. But you know, there's so much happening in the communities, and your involvement has been there for so many years. So paint us a little bit of a picture about, you know, your story and how it all started off.
Okay, and Nafisa, I grew up in a very humble, poor family. My dad was a truck driver, mom a housewife, coming from ancestors who were indentured laborers who were brought to this country. So it was hardship all the while. We got born in Ketamana in Durban, one of the first freehold Indian settlements in those days. And of course, Ketamana was a hub of Indian culture and religion, but also a hub of suffering and oppression. And my dad, and then coming from very political backgrounds, being in the Congress movement, grandfather being involved with Mahatma Gandhi. So, of course, we grew up in that. And I think the one thing that stood out for me is that through all the suffering and the poverty and oppression that we went through, my dad had always taught us that it was so important that what little we had, what we had to share. So it was this upbringing that was always about sharing with your fellow human beings, taking your time to try and assist your fellow human beings that I grew up with, and this that now drives me in the community today.
I think it's an amazing characteristic because it teaches you. I can't even carry on because messages are coming in. Kariziat Patel says, the man is a legend.
Thank you.
So, yeah, as I'm saying, you know, coming from those humble backgrounds, and the one important word that you shared with us is, of course, during this month of Ramadan, brings so much of light to the sinners of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam about sharing and being selfless. And I think that is so commendable from your family's point of view, because irrespective of the sufferings and the challenges that you had, it had taught you to give back. Umar Riyare says, Uncle Ricky Nair is a man with humanity, stood for humanity.
Thank you.
We're hardly going to get through this, I'm telling you. But as I was saying, you know, your story is a very interesting one. It's nice to see that you've adopted that concept of always looking at the person below you as opposed to the person above you, and then selflessly going into the communities and helping out in whichever way you could. So pen out some of the things that you've tapped on. I mean, there's a lot that you've done. I can't even keep up anymore.
Uh, yeah, Leticia, I think I grew up with the philosophy that if I can do a little to make a difference in one person's life each day, then it's worthwhile me living on this earth.
Mm,
So something little, something maybe just giving someone advice, maybe just attending to some abused woman or some child that's crying
mm,
out for help there, or some drug addict that phones me and says, Uncle Ricky, I need to get into a rehab. Or I get a phone call from someone in the community saying the police are not giving me service and I've been badly treated by the police. So it's different things at different times, but like I say, I live my life knowing that if I can just make a little difference in someone's life, to contribute in a small way to making someone's life easier, then I think my purpose on this earth is served.
But you know what I find amazing about you is although you live in that particular area, your empowerment and creating sustainability and helping people with the types of challenges that they face hasn't just been constricted to that. It goes much further than that.
Yes, it does. Humanity has no boundaries.
Mm,
Humanity is one big wave in this world and all created by Allah. So, in whatever challenge that humanity faces or this world faces, and I can get involved and make a difference, I do. I'm very passionate about the environment as well
yes, most
and saving
definitely.
our environment because I believe that this is the greatest gift from Allah in this world, and we are abusing it and destroying it. And then
Mm,
I'm also very passionate about children. Always been passionate about children and youth. And when I see the way society today tends to look after our children and what we're not doing to promote our children into healthy, mentally healthy human beings, it affects me. So we try.
mhm. When you're talking about children, what sort of activities do you get involved in? I mean, because I think it's important for people to want to actually get involved with you to be able to help make those differences.
Okay, my initial involvement started off. I love sport. I've been a sports player myself
I'm
and
gonna
grew up.
I'm gonna butt in there. There's another message from Umar Yare, and he says, "I'm in Nairobi, Kenya. If there's a legend in humanity or humanity was a human being, it is Ricky Nair."
Thanks so much.
I told you,
Uh,
I told you, we're not gonna get through this.
yeah, like I say, I grew up in a township. When we were moved from Cape Manor, we were moved into Chatsworth, which was during the group areas era when they started to evict our people from suburbs or communities into these townships. And
Mm,
there was nothing in these townships those days, and the only thing we could play was soccer or cricket on our field. And I love sport. I think sport just brings people together. It's such a weapon to promote the
most
oneness. I
definitely.
think our late president, Tapan Mujiba, spoke that when he said sports can bring people together.
Mm-hmm,
So I think the first thing I want to say is that, yes, the youth are our future.
mm,
And I want to use this platform to appeal to all young parents. Please get involved in the lives of your children
mm,
by saying get involved in your lives with your children. Don't wait for someone to start a soccer club. Don't wait for someone to start a volleyball club or to
mm-hmm,
start a cricket or netball program. Get involved. Let's do it for ourselves. When we landed in Mayfair in 1980,
mm-hmm,
we had no sports fields. Mayfair was basically a predominantly white area. We were limited to living from Park Drive down to Fordsburg.
mm-hmm,
And the park that they now call Phineas McIntosh Park at the end of Church Street used to be called the whole Boereveld. And this is the only place that we could train.
mm-hmm,
And the then government, out of total, I don't know what the word to use, but uh, disrespect for us, ended up grading that Boereveld and made it into yields to prevent us black people, Indian, and they're basically Indian and African guys that used to train there.
mm-hmm.
And then, of course, with Uncle Musalaya, I got to pay tribute to him, a great man, a great,
Almost definitely.
really, yes. And I was young then, got involved with him. Actually, the way I got involved was that we started a soccer club in Mayfair called Mayfair United, and Mohammed Laya used to play for me. I was young, but I was the coach and captain.
Mm-hmm,
We were the first team in Mayfair, and then I got to know Uncle Musa, and then we decided, no, we needed to do something for junior soccer. We had then acquired JSS as the school. It used to be called Western Eye. And while our involvement in education, which I was part of as well as the Joint Educational Forum, we acquired Western Eye and we used the grounds there. But the point I'm driving is that we didn't wait. We didn't have anything for our children. And we didn't sit back and wait for handouts from government or from other organizations. We went out there, we started a little league with 4 or 5 local clubs, and it grew into a massive club. And this is due to the leadership of Uncle Musalae. But my appeal to parents, and I'm using this example, is guys, our kids are getting into drugs. Our kids are sitting at home and playing PlayStation. It's not healthy, not the way Allah meant it to be. So let's go out there and create these structures so we can have our kids in active activities that will keep them away from the evils of society.
I so agree with you, and I think that the best way to actually look at it is to see the types of empowerment we can give our kids, taking them out of those negative connotations that are around them, and creating a better community through this interaction, which I think is absolutely amazing. Because the thing is, these kids are sitting with technology, which we understand is important, but getting out there and communicating with each other is equally as important. And I'm glad that you brought up that particular subject. But let's talk about all the other things that you're involved in there. I think there's a lot going on right now as we speak. I know I tried to get a hold of you yesterday, but it's been a very difficult time because you've been working burning the midnight oil, as they say.
Nafisa, I currently chair the Brixton Community Police Forum, and I serve on the cluster board that overlooks about 7 stations. But my main activities are with the Brixton Policing Precinct. And with crime and violence, gender-based violence being at the level that it is in this country, it takes up a lot of my time. So I'm not doing justice to a few of the other issues. But, I think the first thing you want to see is have people safe in their homes and have your women and children safe. So currently it's hectic. It's hectic. Being on the ground person, you get a lot of chairpersons who sit at home and make phone calls and send emails. Unfortunately, I'm not that kind of person. I'd like to be on the ground. I'd like to be giving advice and supporting victims of crime on the ground. So it's constantly where I'm on the ground, being at crime scene. We run patrols 2 times a week. It's supporting the Victim Empowerment Center, which we've set up under the leadership of Said Amula. So we've got things going in the community just on the crime side. And of course, I'm then still involved in the civic issues, on the ratepayer issues, not as much as I used to be 2 or 3 years ago. And then, of course, the humanitarian stuff with greater Mayfair safety and security, our feeding programs. We just finished off with our Ramadan Amper programs. So these are things we just do solely for the pleasure of Allah in supporting families that are going through hardship.
Yeah. How important do you think it is for people to want to get involved in these types of structures, to be able to create a better community and a better society? I always say, one person can make a difference, but united, we can make a major difference. And I think this is what people need to understand, is to be able to join in and support in order to be able to move that community into a better space.
Correct, Nafisa. There's a mentality that's in South African citizens, is that we sort of want to demand from government and then we complain. We become a group of complainers. I say be the change we want to see. Make the change that we want. So the only way we're going to do this is to become proactive citizens, get out of our comfort zones, get together with our residents and communities and get involved in these structures. Now, I know you know and you served on the Community Police Forum yourself, and we know the dynamics of the police forum. How, if used properly, can be very effective in guaranteeing service delivery to communities. It can be very effective in making sure that police deliver on their responsibilities. It also can be very effective in using communities to counter the criminality that's overrunning our country.
So, and, as I was saying to a guest on another show, I think the importance is and I think COVID-19 has taught us this, as far as uniting and creating that Ubuntu to be able to move into a better space is the most important thing. Because I think once we create this united support structure, the things like you were saying, we can move mountains without having to realize that we have. And I think that's important, is having to start in your own community and try and make those differences and then spread it out there across the board.
Yes, you're so true, Nafisa. And I say let's start with our streets and let's start with our neighbors. And one thing I think we need to learn from COVID is that we cannot live without each other in this great creation of Allah called humanity. We need each other. And as Muslims, we are designed upon us that we should not go to bed not knowing what is the condition of our neighbors. So I think that we need to start there. We need to, I'm not saying go and try and get involved in your neighbor's affairs, but know your neighbor. Get to know your neighbor. Know that if your neighbor is going to bed with a plate of food on his table, or he's got issues, whatever. I'm the kind of person who just sort of introduce myself to everyone and offer help. So this is what we should be doing. But this is when when the person will phone you and say, Uncle Ricky, and sadly I had a call from a 70-year-old man phoning me and calling me Uncle Ricky and saying, please, I need your help. I have this daughter who's on drugs and I'm at my wit's end. I don't know what to do. And so I'm saying let's start caring. Let's take our caring to this stage of start with our neighbors, our street, our grid, our community, and as we say, we'll take this Ubuntu all over and spread it all over South Africa, inshallah.
One important point that you brought up there is, and I think a lot of people need to understand, when you talk about drugs, it's something that people look at as a taboo subject. And this is the biggest problem in the communities at the moment, is people need to understand that there is that support structure out there. There is help. They just need to reach out and ask for it. There's many households that are going through so many challenges and difficulties as far as that is concerned. And I think COVID has created bigger challenges. So I think, as you were saying, it's having to start in your own street, your own community, and trying to offer that help out there and that support structure. You may not be it yourself, but you may know of an organization or a person that could possibly reach out.
Totally correct. And I think, Nafisa, like I say, if you hear a woman screaming on your street, don't turn the other way. Check it out. What's happening? It's not normal. It's not natural for this to be happening. And like you said, maybe sometimes just make a phone call to the police or to your chairperson of your community police forum or your sector crime forum, and you could save a life. And I want to say, we've gone through COVID and governments and politicians have labeled this pandemic, and we're facing two big pandemics in this country, which has been raging for a few years now. One is being the gender-based violence, the violence against our women and children, which is crazy. It's unthinkable. And then the second pandemic, I labeled it, is the abuse and the spread of drug abuse. And I think being on the ground and we are destroying not only our youth, we are destroying the future of this country. And sadly, politicians, the government does not show a will to bring this problem under control. So parents must get involved and not wait for it to happen to your son. And that's what I noticed, is that parents will now want to come to a drug meeting, a drug awareness meeting, only when their son or daughter is hooked on it. All these kids are our children, and we got to have this. This is what Ubuntu is about, and this is how it was in the whole days. We were the children of the villages and the children of our township. We need to go back to that.
I love that you bring that idea up, and also like it's also a sunnah of Rasulullah Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam about having to reach out to people and help them and create a better, should we say, life for them and change their lives for the better. So I think, as you were saying, it's our responsibility as humanitarians, we'll put it that way, to be able to each one serve a purpose and go out there and follow their purpose, because that's what we've been given. We've all come onto this earth, and my motto is that each one of us needs to serve a particular purpose. And I think you've done it in many directions. Let's talk about your community involvement. I think it's important and imperative that people understand the value attached to what you've done, so that they can, follow in the legacies and maybe also just join you in helping out to make those differences.
Okay, the community involvement stretches over different structures and different aspects of involvement. There's such a need in our communities, firstly, for people to get involved on the ratepayers and civic structures. If there isn't one in your suburb, form one. Just form a community forum where people can channel the challenges of their community. They can challenge their complaints and problems they're experiencing. And then these forums should be then liaising with the current elected councillor and the different bureaucrats who serve in government, from local to national government. So this is something that we do behind the scene. I mean, lots of it is not published, but we continually hound government officials to bring service delivery to our area. I'm going to give you one example. I mean, the Drew Dam issue in Omse Park, which I got involved in 1995, was it?
Mm.
And we're still involved, and we still, because government will not come to the party and defend a long-term solution. But
Right.
again, where we have a lovely facility that could benefit the community, but we need people to come forward and take up this challenge. And we had then the State the Blue Death campaign. Something
Mm.
like that needs to be revived. So
Mm.
there you have a facility where kids could come out and families could come out on a Sunday. We could have a little go-kart track around there, cycling track. But it could be a spot where people could come out and relax with families. At the same time, when we come out of our houses and come to a spot like this, we get to know each other in the community. We create the mob. Okay?
Mm.
I just want to give you one example. So we need people to get involved in those structures. We need people. There's so few of our people that take up the issues of service delivery. And recently, you would agree with me, we've been having major issues pertaining to water, light,
Mm.
bylaw implementation in the area, and then, of course, the ever problem of illegal dumping,
Mm.
on our street corners. But sadly, just so few of us are trying to fight all these battles, and somewhere along the line, you don't have enough time and energy to do them.
Mm. I agree with you. Um, I think it's imperative for people to understand that united we stand, and that we will make differences together. And I mean, you've been hooking up with many communities. It's not just your own to be able to try and, of course, uplift and empower in some way, and change that communities for the better. And I think that's what has made you such a selfless human being. You've reached out in so many directions, not just only in your particular space.
Yes, I think, like I say, if there's a need to uplift human beings, if there's a need where you can serve, it's not whether it's your community or it's there's a need there and it comes to your attention or you get a request to help, then I think we just go out and help. And this is what I would encourage people. But I say start with your own communities. We do have major problems, especially in the Greater Mesa area. But start in your own communities and it will grow. And I want to take my hat off to all those volunteers out there that do the work they do, including yourself,
Hmm.
who have unselfishly served over the years. I don't think so we get enough appreciation or thanks. So I want to take this opportunity to thank every one of them across Salam Media land.
Hmm.
Lots of them I know and interacted over the years. But Allah reward them and bless them with good health and may they continue the work
Amen.
that they're doing.
Yeah, definitely. Um, we want to commend you for, of course, selflessly being for so many years, selflessly going out there and putting yourself out there. I know, I mean, you were working till like 1 this morning, as I know,
Mhm.
and that's so selfless to see a human being go out there and just want to reach out, irrespective of the time or whatever it is. It goes to show the humanity that you have within you. And I'm hoping that many young people, including others that are out there that are listening, would want to follow in the legacy that you've created on your own, and as the other guys that said on the platform that you have become a legend. So what message would you like to leave us with this afternoon?
My message firstly is to the young people that it's your guys' future, that we need to get involved, we need to make a difference. We cannot wait for our elected officials to make a difference in our lives and in our communities. So my appeal to them is yes, I hope I inspire them. I know I have inspired a few in the past who are currently involved and I want this to continue. Go out there, make a difference. The satisfaction that you will get is immense just from
Mm.
seeing a smile, putting a smile on a face, or just a thank you from some old pensioner when you just help in a small way. So it's
Right.
just little things that we do, and we may not believe it when you look at it and think, hey, this won't make a difference. It does. And like Allah says, if you stop on the road and you see a rock and you remove that rock, you
Mm.
prevent somebody else from having a accident.
Mm.
It's a service. So it is that self satisfaction that you get, and that's the greatest. Not all the money in the world can ever give you that. I can tell you that.
Jazakallah so much. We really appreciate that. And thank you so much for taking the time out to join us on your busy schedule. We want to commend you from ourselves and the team for all the amazing, selfless work that you've been going and doing out there. You take care of yourself, and we wish you nothing but the best going forward. Jazakallah.
Jazakallah and Nafisa for having me, and once again, all the best to your team there and to the listeners on Salam Media.
Jazakallah.
Salam
Assalamu
alaikum.
alaikum. That was Ricky Nair giving us his community builder version of the amount of time he spent giving back towards people. So I think that's something we should think about. We're going to go for a quick break. Stay with us. We'll be back in a moment.